Heavy metal's fiercest voice once roared louder than thunder until the world heard something it never expected, news that stunned fans, silenced crowds, and cast a dark shadow over an icon who seemed untouchable. How could the man who sang of warriors and battles fall to something so silent and real? There were signs, subtle and often overlooked or dismissed, but behind the curtain, a storm had been brewing. This is not just another story about a rock legend. It is a raw, unfiltered look into a moment that changed everything, reshaping how many see Ronnie James Dio. Long before the devil, horns became a universal symbol of rebellion and unity among metalheads. The gesture had a far more obscure origin deep in southern Italian folk. Superstition, known in Italian as the malocchio or evil eye, this ancient hand sign formed by extending the index and pinky fingers while folding the middle, and ring fingers down with the thumb, was traditionally used to ward off curses, misfortune, or malevolent spiritual forces. It was believed to protect the bearer or deflect bad energy sent by others. In Dio's family particularly, through his Italian grandmother, the gesture was no joke or gimmick. It was part of a serious belief system passed down through generations. To young Ronald James Padavona, Dio's birth name, this sign was not theatrical but genuinely mystical. When Ronnie James Dio stepped into the limelight as a frontman, first with Rainbow and later with Black Sabbath, he brought this cultural relic from his heritage to the stage. It was not a random act of rebellion or mere showmanship, but a conscious choice rooted in personal and ancestral significance. Dio explained in interviews that he adopted the gesture after joining Black Sabbath in 1979 as a subtle counter to Ozzy Osbourne's peace sign. According to his wife and longtime manager Wendy Dio, the choice had roots far deeper than stagecraft. It was an old Italian sign to ward off evil, something he had seen family members do without thinking, simply part of his heritage. One day on stage, he just did it and it took off. The devil horns gave him a visceral, primal way to connect with audiences, carrying an aura of mysticism and protective force that perfectly matched the darker, mythological themes surrounding his presence. Unlike generic rock gestures, this symbol resonated as a visual shorthand for a deeper subcultural identity. Metal fans, hungry for icons that stood apart from mainstream norms, gravitated to its cryptic power. Soon it was echoed back to him by tens of thousands in arenas worldwide. By the mid-1980s, the devil horns were no longer just Dios. They had spread across metal subgenres from thrash to doom, becoming a shared emblem of defiance, unity, and unspoken code among fans and performers alike. The gesture was not born on stage. It was inherited, reimagined, and given new meaning. Dio did not invent it. He repurposed it, translating an old world superstition into the language of heavy metal. Though Black Sabbath bassist Geezer Butler later suggested Dio may have picked it up from him during early Heaven and Hell tour shows, the symbol's enduring association remains unmistakably tied to Dio. Ronnie James Dio's voice was not just powerful. It was precision engineered. With a vocal range spanning multiple octaves, he possessed remarkable ability to project with clarity, depth, and resonance without sacrificing control. His singing carried a uniquely metallic edge that cut through heavy instrumentation without distortion or strain. More importantly, his command of vocal dynamics, shifting seamlessly between sustained high notes and rapid-fire phrasing, showed technical mastery few rock singers ever achieved. He could move from a thunderous roar to a melodic whisper with fluid ease, a skill honed through years of disciplined practice rather than raw talent alone. One lesser-discussed foundation of his vocal strength was his early experience with the trumpet. Starting music at age 5, he spent years as a trumpeter in school bands, learning to sing the same way one plays, from the diaphragm with proper technique. This classical training built extraordinary lung capacity, breath control, and understanding of tone and phrasing. The trumpet's demands for constant modulation and breath management gave him a physical sense of airflow and power essential for great vocalists. Unlike many peers who relied solely on instinct, Dio had a technical foundation that allowed him to outlast and outperform. In studio or on stage, his voice remained consistently flawless, layered harmonies, sharp enunciation, impeccable pitch, and little deterioration live compared to recordings. Even in later years, when most vocalists declined, he maintained the strength and timbre that defined him. His voice functioned as an instrument itself, deliberate, commanding, versatile, and sculpted for maximum impact. From breath management and vibrato to posture and projection, everything was meticulously refined. He did not just sing over heavy metal. He carved space within it, blending power and technique to become a true vocal titan. Ronnie James Dio was more than a lyricist, he was a mythmaker. His songs created immersive symbolic worlds where every line carried weight and purpose, centered on themes of light versus dark, good against evil, and the eternal struggle between fate and free will. These were not vague musings but deliberate constructions of modern mythology. Imagery of dragons, demons, swords, and storms symbolized internal battles, moral dilemmas, and the hero's journey. A rainbow in the dark represented hope amid despair or individuality against conformity. Holy Diver allegorized sacrifice, spiritual burden, and leadership's cost. Dio rarely spelled things out, instead inviting listeners to interpret and see themselves in his characters. He mastered saying something grand through symbols, transforming fantastical tales into personal truths that gave his lyrics depth and longevity beyond typical heavy metal fare. Structurally, his songs often followed narrative arcs, verses setting scenes, choruses capturing emotional climaxes, bridges delivering plot twists, feeling linear and progressive rather than repetitive. He balanced exposition with mystique, sparking imagination without confining it. His genius lay in weaving mysticism, fantasy, and allegory into a unique lyrical mythology that was elevating rather than escapist, turning heavy metal into portals for confronting darkness, rising through trials and questioning shaping forces. More than a lyricist, Dio was a master world builder whose songs remain enduring myths etched in sound. When Ronnie James Dio joined Ritchie Blackmore in the mid-1970s, their collaboration reshaped hard rock. After Blackmore left Deep Purple, he found in Dio, then fronting Elf, a partner for a new project steeped in mysticism and power. What began as a studio collaboration evolved into Rainbow, blending Blackmore's guitar wizardry with Dio's imaginative presence into a sound merging classical sensibilities with theatrical intensity. The 1976 album Rising became their masterpiece, embracing expansive cinematic quality with towering riffs, neoclassical lines, and epic arrangements. Tracks like Stargazer showcased brooding mystical atmosphere, a bold departure from conventional hard rock. Yet harmony faded as Blackmore pushed commercial directions while Dio resisted, valuing artistic depth. After Long Live Rock and Roll, Dio departed, ending a brief but impactful era that carved a unique space of fantasy-infused grandeur. By the late 1970s, Black Sabbath teetered on collapse after Ozzy Osbourne's departure. Dio's arrival in 1979 did not merely replace him, it redefined the band with refined, focused energy. His approach of singing across riffs opened musical doors, introducing fresh lyrical and conceptual directions. Heaven and Hell, 1980, marked a sharper, melodic shift with songs like Neon Nights and Children of the Sea, restoring critical and commercial dominance. Mob Rules, 1981, continued the momentum, but tensions over control culminated in Dio's 1982 exit amid mixing disputes for Live Evil. Though short, his tenure resurrected a legend, proving rebirth possible with the right voice and vision. Leaving Black Sabbath, Dio formed his namesake band in 1982 with drummer Vinny Appice, guitarist Vivian Campbell, and bassist Jimmy Bain. Holy Diver, 1983, declared independence with iconic anthems blending melodic riffs and thunderous rhythms. The Last in Line, 1984, reinforced success, but internal friction led to Campbell's departure in 1986, replaced by Craig Goldie. Subsequent albums retained spirit yet struggled to replicate original magic. Still, Dio transitioned successfully to band leader, building his own legacy as a complete creative force. Away from stage theatrics, Dio led a modest, grounded life, soft-spoken, thoughtful, valuing privacy, kind, generous, and loyal. He preferred quiet evenings with books or cards over rock star excesses. His enduring marriage to Wendy Dio since 1978 formed a partnership of mutual respect, managing career and life amid industry chaos. An avid reader of science fiction and fantasy, he drew philosophical inspiration from alternate realities and heroism, enjoying classic films and cherishing his cats. Resisting fame's trappings, he found fulfillment in intellectual pursuits and meaningful relationships, a humble thinker behind the mythic persona. In late 2009, persistent stomach pain led to a diagnosis of late-stage stomach cancer. Facing his greatest challenge, Dio fought with dignity and defiance, undergoing chemotherapy at MD Anderson while supported unwaveringly by Wendy. He remained engaged, thanking fans and writing music when able, never surrendering spirit. On May 16, 2010, at age 67, he passed surrounded by loved ones. Tributes poured in. Tony Iommi called him a brother, Ozzy Osbourne a legend with an unmatched voice. Dio's legacy endures through his foundation, influencing generations. With epic scope and meaningful metal, forever alive in the genre's heart as an immortal warrior.